In addition to honoring the ancestors, one of the other fundamental practices in our ancestral tradition, within heathenry, within the northern tradition, is honoring the spirits of the land. We often call them vaettir or whites. When we say white, that has nothing to do with color. It's an anglicized version of the Old Norse word vet, which simply means spirit, undifferentiated spirit. They're something like the Japanese kami. Ours is an animistic tradition, and we believe that the world is alive. There are spirits of the mountains, of the wind, of the fire, of the trees, of the grass, of the flowers, of the weeds, and we honor them because they keep our land healthy. They sustain the world upon which we walk. And I think that sometimes, torn as we are between the holy powers and the ancestors, that the vaettir of the land they fall into that crack in the middle and get forgotten.
What was your first experience with having the land spirits brought to your attention?
I had attended a public ritual. I lived in New York City at the time, and there was a shop that routinely held public rituals. And they had a little outdoor grove in back of the shop. And I walked out there and I became aware of the land, but the living presence of the land. And the presence says that inhabited the land. And everything was dead, and everything was desiccated. And the vaettir of the land seemed to be starving. And it was really, really, really painful to experience. So I left in the middle of the ritual and went and got beer and bread, came back, completely ignored what was going on there because they were certainly ignoring what was going on around them. And I poured out the beer and I laid down the bread, and the vaettir swarmed. And it was like being swarmed by a horde of starving, desiccated men who were just desperate for a drop of the alcohol, a bite of the food, for some sort of energy to be returned to them. And it was horrifying. It was absolutely horrifying. And I realized that we pull on this natural energy every time we do ritual. Just living in our world, every time we toss garbage carelessly about. In 1,000 ways we're taking from them and giving nothing back. And from that moment on, I began to regularly honor the spirits of the land. And later this evolved as I began to travel with my mom. I would experience the genus loci, the spirits of a place, the city spirit, and was introduced to different families of spirits. I learned to honor the spirit of the place in which I live. And I learned that from Paris. She taught me how to honor city spirits and how to sense them. And I learned to honor the spirits of the land through that horrific experience. And at the end of that ritual, going back to that experience, I gave an open invitation for any of the vaettir that wanted to. It was like, come home with me. I'll feed you. I'll honor you. You will not go hungry in my house.
So how could someone start to honor the earth spirits, the land, the spirits of place?
Once a week, pour out an offering of alcohol or juice or milk outside and say thank you. Once a week, put down a bowl of milk and honey in your house and say thank you to the spirits that dwell within and the spirits that dwell without. It's as simple as that. This does not have to eat up a huge chunk of your time. Just be mindful that you share this space with other sentient beings, and they have a right to exist. And to be in right relationship with them, you need to be giving something back, because we're all surely taking enough.
So what about someone who moves to a new place, people who travel from place to place a lot? Is it possible to form relationships with land spirits where you're not going to live for a long time?
Oh, absolutely. I do it all the time. The past couple of years I've traveled extensively through Europe, and I have a fairly good relationship with Paris and with the Seine. River spirits are delightful. And various city spirits, it's like having friends in different cities. You establish the relationship, and And like any relationship, it's maintained through mutual respect, and in our tradition, gift giving. And then you know how they feel. You know this person, if you will. And whenever I travel, I'll go and say hello, and I'll leave offerings, and I'll say, hey, can you just keep an eye out for me here? I no longer live in New York City, but when I go in, particularly if I have to be there late, I'll say, hey, New York, can you just keep an eye out for me? Make sure nothing happens. I'll pour out some wine. I'll give you an offering of wine when I get home. It's as simple as that. But that presupposes that I've taken the time and the energy over a number of months and years to develop that relationship where I can be like, hey, how are you doing? It takes time, like anything else. I mean, developing a relationship with a land spirit or with an ancestor or with a deity is in many ways not so much different from developing a relationship with your next door neighbor. It's a matter of time and attention and mutual respect. And if you're willing to give the time, then you might see some very good results.
So someone who's in a city, where would they go to best take up the land light?
That depends on the city. I usually say just go outside wherever you happen to be, wherever you are able to have a few moments of quiet. It might be a local park. It might be your balcony. It doesn't really matter so long as you feel that you can communicate with this being. And in addition, I mean, this is a city spirit. There are all the little land spirits around. And there, it's like, where are you standing? Well, that's where you can communicate if you choose to. And it's not always appropriate. I mean, you know, in the middle of Grand Central Station at rush hour is probably not the right time to communicate with a city spirit or a land vaettir. But maybe in the evening after dinner, going out and sitting on your stoop, well, that's a different story. You have a few moments to say thank you, to say hello, to have a moment of conversation. We're animists. And that's a radically different mindset from the monotheism that so informs our dominant cultural paradigm. We are animists. We believe in the inherent intelligence of the world around us, large and small.
So you recently bought your own home and your own piece of land, and how has that been, actually having a permanent relationship with a piece of land?
You know, there's a great deal of power in ownership, and I didn't realize this. Until I bought this house, I had lived in apartments all of my adult life. I find that my house spirit, my land spirit, the dominant spirit, the land vaettir and house vaettir, and then my city spirit are all partners. My house spirit sustains me up to the point of when I am ill. She sees to my needs. I feel that she restores me. This is my safe space. This is my sanctuary. And she helps me maintain that. The various spirits in the house, the house vaettir, help me keep the energy feeling hospitable and comfortable and warm. People have commented on it when they've come to my home, how warm and hospitable it feels. And I give credit where credit is due. It's because I have a good working relationship with my house spirit, with all the vaettir inside and out, and with the city spirit in general. And it's just concentric circles.
So where does the house spirit come from? How do you get one of those?
Beats me. I honestly don't know how it works. My prerequisite for buying my property was that the land had to be clean. When I went there and I called out to the land spirits and surreptitiously put down an offering, they did not swarm. It's like, oh, that's interesting, we'll check that out in a little bit. That told me that they were healthy. That was a prerequisite for me. I think that the gods take very good care of me. And places are sentient. Places have memory. They have being. I think that the house spirit was there when I moved in. If we hadn't been compatible, I probably wouldn't have been called to buy that particular property. I bought a house that was newly built. That too was a conscious decision. I did not want to deal with having to clear out other people's gunk. I wanted to be able to begin this relationship cleanly and let it develop as it would. But where the spirit came from, I don't know. It's there. We're sharing space.
Have you ever dealt with land spirits who didn't want to talk to people or didn't want to deal with people?
Absolutely. And you know what? The way we generally treat them as a culture, I'm not surprised. They have every reason to be hostile to us. When a few months ago, there was this huge sinkhole in Guatemala. And I have to say, my first thought was, wow, somebody really annoyed some land spirits. Why should they feel positively toward us as a race? We have no respect for their dwelling places. I'm surprised that, I'm actually, the surprising thing for me is that more of them are willing to partner with us and to befriend us and to develop a working relationship with us. That's what surprises me. I'm immensely grateful for that. Sometimes as a shaman, I often get called in to clear houses of negative energy. And I've had people ask me, well, how do you do a house clearing? I have to say that really depends on what needs to be cleared, because it may be that you're dealing with an angry land spirit that has every right to be there and to be upset. And in that case, there's no clearing. There's negotiating and hoping that we can find some workable compromise. Because ultimately, the land spirits and the elemental spirits have every reason to be upset with us. And think of the betrayal. In Norse cosmology, the universe and the worlds were created by an implosion of ice and fire. These elements are our eldest ancestors, and we spit on them every day with the way that we live. There's a huge debt there, and I don't think that we've even begun to think about repaying it. So what amazes me is that so many of these vaettir are willing to be our friends and allies.